So continuing on here, SPQR Great Plains. Scipio chose not to take his elite action again, and Direball came down. The Romans won or whatever, had to go first. Prefect here launched a couple of the Velites, and one of them slammed here, drove away. Skirmisher, yeah. He was holding place. He actually just drove it away after a fight. But the other one was able to slip around and strike one of the heavies and send it flying. And the other option, of course, would have been try to launch the line. Would have been a legitimate attack because he's within range of Scipio. Scipio's able to give him a line command that way. And it would have been very valuable, but I wanted to get some of the stuff that was kind of hindering the line out of the way first before I strike. That gives, though, the Carthaginians a chance to move with this guy. Well, the Romans launched a massive attack with their first 3-point dude. Double momentum. Bowstar tried to trump the first momentum and failed. And they've just pretty much cleared most of those heavies out of the way. There's still a couple kicking around here. The heavies, the skirmishers, everything's been driven out. They're even plunging into the lights. With the amount of effort that was put in, there was recoveries and reattacks and everything. And, they've broken the center. Of course, there's a second line here, which is, I guess, the Carthaginians' hope at this point, because that front line's just busted. Of course, Hasdrubal could also try to rally it and bring it back into play. It's a difficult thing because if he tries to rally it, he might drive them into there. If he attacks with the second line, these guys might run off the board eventually. It's always tough in this game to deal with two lines this way. Well, Hanno launched his cav again. Actually, first we had Cassius here. We moved these two lines forward. And he got a line command in the second case. He didn't have to roll in the first. But then Hanno came in and tried to smash the Numidians. Massinissa trumped him after a continuation. So now the Numidians are going to get to come back at those heavy cav and show them kind of what for. Well, Massinissa only got one round, swept them away. Of course, drove away all of the heavy cav. They're all routing now. But he didn't destroy any. Well, yeah, one got destroyed. I don't know if that was from that. That was from javelins at a routing unit. But otherwise, he didn't have any pursuits, which is good because he doesn't lose any units, but it also doesn't drive away the Carthaginians. And the Carthaginians are so far along in losses. We had Hasdrubal trumped in to stop Massinissa and ended up killing a few units while trying to rally and rallying some others, but Carthaginian losses are going to be gathering a lot of momentum at this point. And that's the thing they have to avoid here, along with allowing the Romans to deploy. And it looks like the Romans are getting their deployment into place. The only thing that can really, these weak Carthaginian levies could conceivably do something about it. But otherwise, Carthage is having a hard time getting its troops into that outflanking position that they think they can get away with, or that they thought they might be able to get away with. Alright, there's got to be a 4-pointer kicking around. Laelis is somewhere down here, and he'll be up next, I guess. And on the other side, Laelis' cav shows just why the Numidians are so potent. Locked into combat. Remember, those Numidians charged. They dealt pretty much a little better than maybe they took. But now the Romans come back. They attack are superior. They still broke. You don't have to make a tactical quality check before the fight. So that's one of the big advantages taken away from the Numidians in an exchange that's already in place. But it's just that huge tactical quality advantage they have was enough, along with the little advantage they had from before and the javelin throws and whatever. Up here, we see the heavy cav pushed forward a little bit into that light infantry. It's not a very good trade-off either because there's 3 light infantry to 2 heavy cav. It worked out okay, but it wasn't great. The only thing helping them, they've got this flanking attack here. But they want to bust this line up. They don't care if they do it as a trade-off or whatever. They want to bust it up so they can get the Legionnaires out. But they're losing to the Numidians, and now the Legion's in a lot of, well, I wouldn't say danger, but it's threatened. Because the Numidians can do a lot of damage. Any cav can to an exposed army's flank like that. Alright, so where are we? Where's our next 4? I think we've triggered all the 4s, which means we're now down to the 5s. And there's only really one left, which is Suspix. And we've finished things off with Scipio running around, rallying a bunch of troops. You see all the greens there. Let's look at the points here. Scipio has lost 8. One of his Numidians got killed. And over here, 8, 20, 26 points. I'm sorry, 25. One of them is a skirmisher down there. Yeah. Alright, 25 points. Let's try to get this stick. So that makes it 46 to 14. Carthaginians are definitely failing. Not much can be expected there. Nothing else coming off the map. So those points are actually correct. Come on to the next turn then. And well, this is really the beginning of the next turn, but we get a pretty good idea of how bad it looks for Carthage. In terms of that first line, we've driven the cav off. This is just the Numidians back here. The Carthaginian heavies might recover, they might not. Medium's standing here, but we got that line coming forward. We've got a line here that's broken through the center. Over here, there's not much facing, except for the cav, which is reformed to face those Numidians. But there's not much other than this very light stuff, other than the Numidian cav, that can really do much of anything. And the fact that Scipio was able to rally his cav means that well, those Numidians are going to have to hit the cav again. It's easy enough to wipe out, but whenever they do that, there's a chance they'll run off the board chasing them. Alright, well, onward. So, Scipio opens things up by pushing his Principe's line forward, and that drives the Numidian cav back. They can't risk letting the Principes catch them head on. They're too valuable to fight straight up against the legionary infantry. The battle table isn't terrible, so legionary infantry doesn't get a superiority, and well, it gets a pretty good table, 10 table hitting straight on. But even beyond that, you just don't want this fight. You don't want to see your cav wasted in head-to-head confrontations with stuff that they should be trying to outflank. So they pulled out. That puts us on our 2, and because Scipio took his elite leader bonus, that flings it over to the Carthaginians. For the 2-point leaders, well, I had this replacement Carthaginian leader, and he's truly Carthaginian. He's not one of the Numidians. Somehow embedded with the Numidian troops. I don't know if he led them forward or if he just ended up in a stupid place, but he can't keep commanding them. So he ran back and failed to rally something. Chances weren't much higher by letting someone... Actually, he probably couldn't have rallied them either. Oh well. Put that back. And he killed this instead, I guess. Looks like he was commanding that force or something. I don't remember. I've been away for a bit. And then for the Romans, well, who's this? Reblius recovered some of his troops' tactical quality. Now we're back over on the 3s. And for there, good old Sophocles, or Socrates, sorry. Yeah, excuse random Greek names here. Through the medium infantry that he had in line forward, and got a couple of flank attacks which routed a couple of Roman units, but when he ran into the Velites head on, his unit was routed. He didn't get a momentum. Cassius up here did. He moved his line forward and then did a little bit of rallying in there. didn't even really didn't try to do a line command, which he could have done here. Instead, he wanted to recover some of those Roman units. Fair trade-off, I think. We got one more three-pointer over here with Antonius. Antonius got a full boat of momentums, all three actions. He managed to drive away most of the heavies with just, key activations here, there, and everywhere, just to smack with flank attacks. And what we've got is Hasdrubal falling behind. He's got almost nothing left here in the front. He's got some of these Carthaginian levies left. But otherwise, that line's just been broken at this point. So there's nothing left really of that front line in the center for the Carthaginians. Now we go over to their fours. Bostar had a nice little activation, drove away some of the Romans that were over on this side, and he's making his levies a lot stronger. He rallied some of them, etc. Much, perhaps more important, he caused Massinissa to attempt to trump and fail, so that's going to freeze his forces for a little bit. And then we go over to Laelas. And Syphax here did a big number on his flank. He lost a couple of units that he tried to rally after his initial hit. He struck with those Numidian lights against the Legion, and that's just not going to work, right? But he wanted to do some damage. Well, they were routed back. He tried to rally them. They ran for the hills. But he did get a Numidian in, a couple of them for flank attacks, and then he finished up by hitting those cav and driving them back. Somewhere in the midst of all this, Scipio tried to trump in on the first momentum and failed. So Scipio's out of the picture for the rest of the turn. We only got one person left, Hasdrubal, back here. Let's see what he can do. And Hasdrubal pretty much managed to do a good job in the center as well, throwing forward. First the mediums, a little bit of hitting there, not much. Actually, maybe not. I think one unit did, this routed guy maybe. And then the heavies came forward, and he actually fired off a couple in the center again, just to actually get a strike in, because the first one's barely hit. And you can see he made some headway. So he's kind of collapsing the center of the Roman line. That's going to make the Triarii line, which is sort of a special Triarii in this, because they have 5 movement, for example. Have to try to cover that center more, and it's beginning to look like maybe there's more Carthaginians on the field in that area than there are Romans, and there seems to be more here too, but I would say the weight of the Romans easily overcompensates for that. If Massinissa could only come into effect, he would just destroy this, I think, but he's been kind of diddling his thumbs back there. Alright, let's look at what the points are like. I'll count these up. There may be some more running off the map, though. I don't think they're going to quite make it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nope. And you can see Hanno managed to rally back there. Alright, so what do we got? 2, 13, 20, 28 for the Carthaginians, which puts them up to 74. And for Rome, we've got a big legion at 721. Carthaginians, though, are getting real close. I guess you couldn't see me right. Great. Real close at 17, though. They only need 16 more losses, and that's almost guaranteed to happen. I think the next turn is going to be the last one. The Romans have not taken much damage here. Even though it looks like they're not doing terribly well on the field, they're inflicting these casualties. The Carthaginians have to try to rally their troops, or they'll just run off eventually. You got to take your chance. There's not that much backfield in this. The last scenario, they could have probably played with that more, but in this one, they really only have a couple of turns to get their troops out rallied, and they suffered for that. All right, well, this one's going up. I don't quite want to put it up just because I want to show. Certainly there are a lot of Romans routing, which feels wrong for this battle, right? This is one of Scipio's great triumphs, and he's suffering some serious setbacks here, but let's look at the number of Carthaginians routing here. I mean, that's easily going to be enough points to end the game, so they've got to do something about that. And I could have sent him back, but he's so poor at rallying that he's probably going to force a loss if I send him to do the rallying. So he's going to stay here and try to command this. I'll try to get Hasdrubal down there and do it. It doesn't look promising, though. It looks like the Carthaginians have lost already. It's just a question of, the rest of the army just breaking all at once. All right, up it goes. So this final turn here, Great Plains ends up with Scipio firing off his elite leader bonus and sending that, I guess that's the Principe line forward, and just driving away the rest of the Numidian infantry. Still the Cav, though. A couple more around here where he smacked in and maybe didn't get as much traction. This one routed back. But for the most part, he's punched through, and over here, even started hitting the edge of the heavies there. Try to take some of the pressure off the center where things look like they've kind of collapsed. Where Antonius is sitting. Well, the replacement Carthaginian leader launched a line attack. 2 units here, well, they broke and ran, but 2 other units managed to slam forward and drive into positions where they were able to hit the flank of some advanced Legion units and smacked them away. So we see an even bigger gap opening up here, even though this is also widening. And then we saw an excellent display of leadership by Prefect Socortoran, who, for some reason, I decided to rally a bunch of troops. That's about all he could do where he was. And, well, this is the result of it. 18-point failure. Not a good idea to try rallying with your crappy leaders, but I don't know. In a somewhat similar vein, though, Socrates back here managed to rally a significant number of forces. He scared some of them off, but he rolled under their tactical quality, so they just kept running back, and then he went back and rallied them on a momentum roll. Came down, and Cassius was used to launch some attacks. He couldn't get a line command. He's a little out of Scipio's range, so he had to roll, and he failed. Punched through whatever was here, so he's kind of trying to move against there. And then he did some rallies. His were mixed results, with another one over here and a couple of successes there. But what he did do was manage to steal Hanno's move here. Hanno tried to trump in during a momentum, and that failed. Now Cassius launched the Triarii line, the new reformed Triarii line, into the fray. And they're quite potent, but heavy infantry doesn't have the big advantage on medium, which is what they're hitting. The main thing they're going with here is their high tactical quality, but they are tiny. Remember, I brought this up in another one. They're only size 2, so they get a lot of shifts against them when they go slamming into, the heavies and that are meant to be front line of battle units. These are not, and they don't really operate that way. All right, on to some of the Carthaginian leaders now. And Bostar launched a line attack, actually a ragged line, which again had mixed results, but more or less pushed a couple of the Romans back. And hey, great, but I think he also had a failed rally. I'm not sure. I think this guy's his fault. And then over here, Lilas. I believe that's, it's not Lilas, it's Lilas. Used his cav, drove the Numidian cav back a little bit because it didn't want to face his slower moving stuff, but then he brushed aside some of the light infantry that was kicking around there instead. And, did manage to actually catch one of the Numidians, which means now one of the Roman cav is off the map. Alright, we're getting to the big boys now, and it's over. I mean, it really is. We've got 12, 16 points. Oh no, that only puts us to 90. Yeah, it's 26 away. I thought it was only 16 away. So there's a chance if the Carthaginians can rally the stuff that's leaving the board, just about all of it, they might be able to get away from this. As you can see, Hasdrubal had a tremendous string of luck there. Managed to rally all of that pretty much. However, he did get a die roll of doom on his second momentum check, and the choice was to give Massinissa the command, and Massinissa broke the heavy cav that was in his way and actually destroyed one of them. Not in a pursuit situation, in a post-combat situation. Just bad retreats lined up. All we got left is Scipio. He probably can't knock more points off. And what were we at? We're at like 20, so it's at 94 for the Carthaginians at this point. This is going to go off the map. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to bring it up to 100. They only needed 90. Yeah, Carthage is done. It's just a question of playing out Scipio's turn at this point. You know, honestly, he's going to be running around rallying and preparing his troops. They're not really ready for another attack at this moment. So I'm going to call it here. You know, it was an interesting little battle. It did not develop at all as it did historically from, you know, what the records show. Scipio just had too many failures. But even with that big string of bad luck, you know, this is not a game which tends to hang in the balance very much. Usually a battle is really very one-sided, and this is a clear case of that. All right, I'm going to send this one up. You know, it's funny because the next battle is a direct follow-up to this. It's one of the bigger cav battles, I think, here. Cirta. Yeah, that doesn't look too big. It's fairly large. It's about twice the size of Agathocles Tower. For a pure cav battle, it's fairly major. But I don't want to jump right into it. I want to play something kind of Euro-ish or just something that's not SPQR, pretty much. I really wasn't getting into the hang of this one. All right, up it goes.